Welcome to Hacking the Hustle. This is your host, Benjamin Sklar, and my guest today is Monica Rojas. How you doing, Monica?
I'm great. Thanks, Ben. How are you?
I'm good. For those listening, Monica is the head of community for Upstream. I'm sure you've heard of me talk about Upstream in the past. Huge fan of the platform, and I'm excited to have her on the show today to talk about her role and the vision for Upstream's future. How's that sound, Monica?
I love it. I mean, anything community, Web3, anything like that, I'm all for it.
So tell us, what is Upstream?
So I feel like I'll just share a little bit more of a testimony, or at least like some success stories with Upstream, or um, how we actually transitioned into Web3, because we weren't always Web3 Upstream. We were more of like Web2 community builders, professional networkers, and all that. So we started in 2019, really just focusing on how do we connect professionals during the pandemic, right? And a lot of times with community, you're part of a group chat and you're probably not going to message someone individually in a group chat. So we found ways to create products and tools to create serendipitous moments between community. So let's say if you launch a community on Upstream, you have the ability to have like one-on-one connections through office hours. So you can book literally 10 minutes to chat with anybody who has office hours available. Um, in our virtual events, you have breakout rooms. So you get paired every time you attend a virtual event, you automatically get paired with somebody awesome who's attended or part of the community. And then you can actually follow up with them right away. And then we also had something called the Ask Board. So with our Ask Board, you're able to just like ask your community those questions that are a little bit uncomfortable, but we made it really natural. So I'm looking for an intro to an investor in consumer goods. I'm looking to hear feedback on my app. I'm looking for an intro to, a good taco place in Miami. You can ask your community whatever you'd like. But since like the Web3 wave, and Ben, I don't know how familiar your audience is with Web3, we really needed to find how are we gonna like build a future of community, right? So that's when our team started thinking, and our CEO and our co-founders, Alex and Michael, they're like, we need to launch DAOs, a DAO tool, right? So since then we've launched a DAO-in-a-box product. So it's basically like no low code, super easy, user-friendly DAO products. So anyone who's looking to launch a DAO or just a shared wallet with your community, that's what we are now, and we're still supporting community as much as we can because that's our priority. But yeah, so that's kind of like a story and how we transition. Just because if I would have said, you know, Upstream is just about DAOs, I would have been probably lying.
Yeah. I want to start a DAO. I'm involved with the Birthright community, Birthright Israel. It's a nonprofit, and I'm on the board there. And I talk about starting a DAO for the nearly 1 million alumni. Could
Mhm.
we use Upstream as our platform?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So how do I go about doing that?
So right now we're in private beta, and we have like an onboarding process where we have like one-on-one discussions like this with all the potential DAOs or people that are interested in launching a DAO. And we really sit them down and be like, all right, like what's your goal? Like, do you really think a DAO is necessary for what you're looking to achieve? Just because I feel like DAOs right now are like the sexy way of saying, oh, I have a new startup, you know? So we
Mhm.
really try to walk them through the logistics, the law, or the legal stuff, and even just like what your goals are for your community, right? So then once you fill out your application, we sit down with you, we chat with you. And then from there, we literally ask you 7 questions about like your tokenization. Do you guys have an existing NFT project? How do you guys want to gate the community? Do you guys want, how are you guys going to do your voting, right? Because, with DAOs, you have to really focus on giving your community ownership. And then from there, we like set that up for you. And then it's literally like launching your own community. Like you don't have to do any of the technical background. So that's really it.
Mhm. And can you explain why would someone even start a DAO?
Yeah, yeah. So there's like a few like explanations or just like stories or like case studies I like to share. So like let's say if you're something that we always say is like, when you're younger, you're in school and you're going to the pizza party, and everyone has to bring $5 for pizza and everyone gets a slice, right? But if you bring $7 or you're contributing more, you probably get to pick what soda you're gonna get, or even like what toppings you're gonna get, right? So it allows people to just kind of just be equal and decide and make decisions, and also allows people to just do really cool things as a community, right? Because as a community leader right now, I feel like I'm the one making most of the decisions. But imagine like having everybody contributing to the decisions, and then having a shared wallet where you can actually implement all the ideas that you're coming up with.
Mhm. Interesting. What are some examples of successful DAOs in
Mhm.
in the community?
Yeah, there's honestly there's so many successful DAOs right now. Like just to give you an example, there's like social DAOs, right? So let's say if you're going to these big crypto events all the time, like ETH, Ember, NFT NYC, you're literally you're part of a community, and if you're part of that DAO, you guys get to put money together to host these events, right? So you don't have to look for a sponsor, you don't have one person paying for more, and different things like that. And then we also have like literally Twitter group chats on Upstream, or Twitter group chats that are now on Upstream, that wanted to and buy NFTs together or like do really cool things together. So they're now like trying to figure out their home and what direction they're moving towards.
Mhm. Why are you interested in all of this?
Yeah, so I'm like I love community, and I've been like a community leader since before being a community leader was cool. I used to actually get the question all the time, like, so what does community managers do? And it's funny, it's like when someone puts you on that spot, you're just like, we just talk to people all day, or like we host events and stuff like that. And it really sounds like a game. Um, but the reason I'm interested in community is because I feel like communities are more of like a science where you have to figure out, how do you empower your members? How do you give everybody ownership? How do you make sure that people are excited and respecting each other and following the rules and contributing, and like making sure your community doesn't die out? Because right now there's a lot of communities and some of the ones are kind of falling out. So being part of a DAO like kind of forces you to invest and like put your money where your mouth is, right? Because everyone could say, "Oh, I love this initiative, I love Birthright," but how many people are actually going to contribute to the mission? And when people have like a little bit of skin in the game, they're kind of forced to like, hey, okay, I want to give my vote. I actually care, and you kind of weave out like the people that aren't that involved in community. Another thing I really like about like just DAOs as a community leader. So a lot of times when you're organizing big events or dinners or anything, like you end up picking up most of the check just because some people don't pay, or you can't really keep track of like who's doing what, or you might not even get a sponsor, but you still want to put that event together. So this prevents just like the burnout of being a community leader, and present and prevents resentment from happening, because you're like, oh, I keep having these dinners, and yeah, they're wonderful, but I'm over here paying half the bill. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. So it
Mhm.
allows like kind of like the confusion and a little bit more structure within established communities and organizations.
Nice. What advice would you give someone who was a community leader at a big company and they were
Mhm.
thinking about DAOs?
Hmm. I would say, well, first is like talk to a lawyer. You have to make sure that you're not just part of the DAO bus, and you're actually like, okay, if I'm starting a DAO, like, does it make sense for my company or my initiative, or even like, am I aware that it can't just be me starting the DAO? You have to have a whole team behind it.
Mhm.
Um, so that's one thing, is like talk to a lawyer, then going into having a team. Don't build a DAO alone. It's a lot of work. You're gonna burn out. You're strong. If you're a lone wolf, you're stronger as a wolf pack. So find your wolf pack. And lastly, I would say really come up with a 90-day roadmap, and also find a way to empower your community. Like, how can you make your community feel like it's their community? It's not your community, it's ours, right? So figuring out those little things, those things that you don't really think about much when you're like, oh, I need to focus on governance, or I need to focus on, my token. No, you have to focus on people, because people literally are like the brains behind the tokenization and the actions and all of that.
Why do you think Upstream has been so successful at building a community?
Yeah, so I feel like we've done a good job of creating a culture, and that starts from, Alex and Michael of like, hey, let's focus on how we can help people first, right? So, um, we're really focused on understanding people's needs and just like connecting people. So I feel like Upstream, like our obviously our community, our advantage is community because we've helped so many people and they kind of just built relationships with us, and we're really focusing on educating people, right? Because, like, to be completely transparent, when I joined Upstream in August 2021, I didn't know what a DAO was until Alex mentioned it to me. Hey, we're like, thinking about launching DAO tooling on our platform. And I was onboarded onto Web3 through my team, through my role. I was kind of forced to do that. So just being like educational thought leaders in the space has really allowed us to like, help people. That's kind of our focus. Um, and then also like, I don't know, just like we don't really ask people for too much. I feel like we're really focusing on like teaching people how to be good at community. And even like Ben, you're an amazing Upstream user. And I'm sure like you're hosting office hours and like being involved and all of that. Like for us, that's like how you help.
Mhm. For those listening, how can they help you?
So so personally, how they can help me, I'm really looking for people that understand community, right? Because one thing that people don't prioritize is teaching people how to be good community members and over communicating. So if you feel like you understand community and you're really like looking to be in Web3 and then help other people come into Web3, like I'm more than happy to chat and just like connect and figure out ways how we can like, I don't know, throw in-person events or virtual events to teach people and warn people about what to do and not to do. So just looking for like-minded community leaders, I would say.
Awesome. All right,
Yeah.
Monica, for my last question that I ask everybody, if there was
Mhm.
one thing you could do to improve this world, what would you do and why?
Yeah, so that's a question that I feel like has like endless answers, obviously, but something that's really been on my mind lately is I live downtown Miami, and or there's two things, but I'll talk about this one just because it's been on my mind. There's obviously a lot of homeless people downtown, and you kind of you don't really make you try to avoid eye contact, or it's like sometimes a little bit hard because it hurts you to see people living on the streets, right? And just if you think about it, a lot of people on the street have mental health issues, right? So how can we as a community, just like figure out the root of mental health that will prevent that, or even just giving under-resourced communities resources to prevent mental health. That way they don't end up on the streets.
Mhm.
Um, that would definitely be my ask for the world.
I love that. My wife is a therapist, so I get
Oh,
that. How,
yeah,
how could
yeah.
you start a DAO or build a community behind that?
So what's interesting is before you start a DAO, you should really have your community, your set core. And it's definitely about quality over quantity. So if we're able to just like do community stuff without having a DAO, and we already teach people how to be involved, how to just be really good at contributing and ownership and stepping up, then we can launch a DAO with like actions like, hey, what do you think is a priority here? Do you think we should, have mental health days where or like funding for medicine for homeless people based on regions, based on like how many people are in each city? Should we do like soup kitchens, which I don't really think is, I'm just giving an example. I don't think that's the answer, but I don't know, like figuring out ways that work when we do have the money available to us.
Hmm. I agree.
Yeah.
Awesome, Monica. Thanks for hopping on the show today. I'm a huge fan of Upstream,
I
huge
love
fan of what you guys are
it.
doing. There's no doubt that you guys are going to be extremely successful as you ride the Web3 wave. So you got an awesome job. Awesome meeting you. And thanks again.
Thank you so much, Ben.
Call
Have a
me
good
back.
one.